Right. Welcome. At last, we are here. It's the F1 2022 Bahrain Grand Prix, the opening race of the 2022 season. We are finally here. We have got about 9 or 10 minutes now till the race starts. It is 14:51, so the race starts at 3 p.m. UK time. For those in Europe, in Central Europe, that is now in front. So 4 o'clock there. In Bahrain, the lights are on, and the sun is setting. As we know, the Bahrain is a sort of a sunset race. So it starts off just on the very sort of end of their daylight, and then moves its way into a night. Well, finish off in the dark, essentially. And let's quickly run through the order in which they are starting. So on pole position is Charles Leclerc. And P2, Verstappen. P3, Carlos Sainz. P4, Sergio Perez. P5, Hamilton. P6, Bottas. P7, Magnussen. P8, Alonso. P9, Russell. P10, Gasly. P11, Ocon. P12, Mick Schumacher. Done well there today. P13, Norris. P14, Albon. P15, now apologies if I pronounced it right, but Zhu. P16, Sonda. P17, Hulkenberg. P18, Ricardo. P19, Stroll. And P20, Nicholas Latifi there and the Williams at the back. So it's a mixed grid. There's a few unexpected results, I think, or I say results, unexpected positions in terms of where some of the qualifying, so for example, with Magnussen and Alonso, I thought was done well. Of course, Bottas and the Alfa Romeo as well. I think exceeded expectations in terms of what they're expecting. So there we are. That is the lineup for the Grand Prix. I've got the coverage on Sky Sports and all at the moment. I've just gone to an advert typically. But all the drivers are now in their cars. They are pretty much ready now to do the formation lap before the start of the race. And I've got live timing screens, which I shall now bring up. Here we go. So this is the live timing screens, which will be following. I'll also be following the race as well on the Sky Sports F1 channel, which I've got right in front of me. Now, things to look out for, things that we just don't know how they're going to go. Firstly, race pace. Now, of course, we've seen hours of testing now, and we've seen obviously qualifying and so on. But what we don't know through that testing is what cars were running with full loads, what cars were running with empty loads. We know yesterday in qualifying, cars are obviously running on a very light load because they're qualifying. They're trying to make the cars as light as possible and therefore as quick as possible. Now they've got a lot of fuel in the car. The wind has changed direction as well a little bit. That can affect things a little bit. And so we are literally going back again into the unknown. All we now know, this is the first time that we know of in 2022 where all the cars are filled with fuel. They're all running on a similar sort of used tires, if you like. And it's the first time we're going to see with the new regulations whether or not there's designed concept to allow closer and more overtaking is going to work or not. And I think there's a bit of pressure. It's not being talked about, but I think there's a bit of pressure on the likes of Ross Brawn, who come up with this concept of this new design to allow cars to be able to follow more closely and so on. So there's a lot of pressure on there, and it's been the first time we'll actually get to see whether or not these new rules actually provide us with that closer racing. Now, what we do know, so I talked about in my video a couple of hours ago, earlier today in the live stream in the pre-race, and the gap between the first place and last place in terms of timing was pretty close, only 3 seconds in it. And actually, if you took off Latifi, who was quite far behind the rest of the pack, it's really more like 2.5 seconds between first place and last place. That's very close. When you go back to last year, it's more like 4 seconds. So it certainly seems that the field is closer. We're expecting a lot of close racing. It's just now a case of will these new rules and these new car designs do what we're hoping that was set out, which was to allow better better racing and more opportunities to overtake. So we're still on the adverts on Sky Sports F1, but the drivers were in the cars last time I saw, and they'll be doing their formation lap relatively shortly. Here we go. So we're just, I'm just going to tell you now where we are with it. So we're going up to Frosty in the commentary box. And the other thing will be interesting to find out today as well, is we don't know how do the tyres last and reliability. Now I say reliability, cars are far more reliable these days than what they have been. But in testing, the likes of Alfa Romeo, for example, they had a really good qualifying yesterday, but over the longer periods, they were having issues with reliability. So Haas, for example, they had a good couple of quick laps yesterday. How will those cars fare over a longer distance because they had reliability issues? So and then of course with the tire degradation, we don't know, these are new tires this year, new design with the tires on new cars and so on. We're not sure. Some are saying it could be a one stop, some are saying it could be a two stop. We just don't know. We just do not know how these tires are going to last. Are we going to see a one stop? Are we going to see a two stop? Right, so here we are, the Bahrain Grand Prix 2022. Nice looking track from the sky at night. I say night, it's dusk in Bahrain, sunset. Probably only a few minutes left of any sort of sunlight there in it, if any at all. But yeah, should be an interesting turn. One will be a good opportunity to see some overtaking. I think that's where, in particular, we're expecting the new rules to help out. What we're expecting is cars to be able to follow on the last turn a bit closer, and therefore get a good exit and be able to have a good opportunity down the long straight. And if that's the case, then we should have some wheel to action going into turn one on every lap, so to speak. That's the idea. It's not going to be a case of, oh, you can overtake anywhere on the track. It's a case of on particular turns, particularly the sort of faster turns, is that you wasn't last season. You'd struggle to follow the car in front of you on a faster turn. So you come up to a long straight and you're going on that turn, but you're just not able to be close enough. So when you hit that long straight, you're too far back to be able to, even with DRS, to be able to move in and overtake. This should, in theory, help that. That's the idea. So just getting ready now for the formation lap. And yeah, I am very eager to see. I'll be interested to see who gets a good start. Now, in the practice, Ted Kravitz was watching on Sky. He was watching the practice starts at the before the cars go around and do their they obviously have to leave the pits and go around and join the grid about half hour or so before the race starts. And some of them were doing practice starts at the end of the pit straight, and the Ferraris looked like they were picking up some wheel spin. So we'll see how this gets on, how this progresses. Now Leclerc and Verstappen obviously going to be running down. I think Verstappen is going to be obviously trying to get past Leclerc, but he's got to be mindful that he got a quick Carlos Sainz right behind him as well. And Carlos Sainz, I think Carlos Sainz has been actually quite underrated, but don't forget Carlos Sainz used to be a Red Bull. So he's there's no love lost there, let's put it that way. I don't think Carlos Sainz is going to do much to help out Verstappen, obviously. And so now we are, okay, so they are taking the covers off the tyres. I think everyone will be watching this battle down to the front with anticipation. And of course, with the new regulations, how is that going to help the cars behind in these straights, in these starts? Are they going to find more toe? Are we going to find that it's because obviously the whole point has been able to follow closer. There's not going to be as much dirty air behind these cars. Another car to watch out for is George Russell, who's starting in ninth. He was the second off Hamilton yesterday, and I'm he definitely wants to be closer than that. Expect him to have a good pump up the middle here. Hi, Mike. Read between the lines. George is saying that the final sandbag will be removed and set up party mode engine. Well, now it's interesting, Mike. You should say that. I believe that that Mercedes, knowing that the qualifying wasn't going to be great for them, have set Hamilton and Russell on different strategies. And I think they expected Russell to be further back, and they've set his car up particularly more for racing to basically test and get that going. So to speak. Oh, what's going on here? Okay, so they've started the formation lap, and Hamilton just pulled straight out there. So, right, so they're on the formation lap now. But I agree. I think George Russell. The only thing with the party engine mode, remember they changed the rules at the start of last year. So where Mercedes were able to flick their engine mode onto that party mode for the last qualifying for Q3, and then turn it back down for the race, they're now no longer, or that as of last season, they were no longer able to do that. So what they went into first qualifying into Q1, whatever mode their engine was set to, they had to maintain that same engine mode throughout the entire race weekend. So that is why there was none of this party mode in Q3 anymore, because they couldn't run that higher engine mode otherwise they'd have to flick it down. The exception was in particular towards the end of last season when Mercedes took a new engine for the last 2 or 3 races and ran it at a higher engine mode, knowing it didn't need to last them 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 races, only needed to last them 3 or 4 races. So they're able to run it at high engine mode. That's why Hamilton in that Mercedes was so much quicker than Verstappen in those last few races last year. But certainly, I agree. I think George Russell will want a good start. Is this his first? This is his long. I know he's raced in a Mercedes car before as a cover for Hamilton when Hamilton had COVID, but this is his long-term future now. I think George Russell. I don't think it's expected that he's going to go on and challenge this year, but I think he wants to make the point, which is he can become the Hamilton replacement going forward. Because we don't really know realistically how much longer Hamilton. This is the last year of his contract, Mercedes. Is he going to extend at the end of this year? Hard to say. Right, let's see what's going on here. Right, so they're still in their formation lap. They're moving towards the end of the formation lap now. Think they might have a secret dash 2.0. Could be interesting. If they do, we'll see it early in this race. Because I don't think they would want to get back down, particularly where George Russell is in that midfield pack. I do think, though, however, Bahrain isn't the best track for guidance on what car is where. Bahrain always throws up different results to what you'd expect. Right, so they're lining up. There's Sainz on the grid, and Verstappen. Sorry, not Sainz. Charles Leclerc, Sainz, and Perez have now reached their spot. Hamilton's waited a little bit further back, so the first, second, third, and fourth cars had lined up. Now, my Sky coverage seems to be a little bit behind, so they're already off, as you can see on this live timing now. They are off already. I'll try not to follow that too much because I think the Sky coverage is behind the actual racing, so to speak. But as you can see, Hamilton has taken Perez, by the way, which is interesting. Russell's down up into 7th. Now, I'm just going to watch the race now as it starts on the TV coverage. There's the flag. Here we go. Leclerc, good to get a good start. Oh, so if they all avoided each other. So Hamilton made it past Perez on turn 2. Right, okay. So now we can see Perez has had a shocker to start with, by the way. Behind Magnussen. Lando Norris is down in 16th. He didn't have a good start. Ricciardo's at the back, although he's on harder tyres. In fact, both Lando Norris and Ricciardo, as you can see from the timing screens, are on harder tyres. Which would be interesting that the only two, the McLarens, have opted for harder tyres. Interesting what they're doing there. Cool. I tell you what, they're so. There's a back of the last sort of. Wow, it's like they're all over the place. Honestly, they're all over the place. Okay, so Ricardo, lots of sparks off Ricardo's, off his car. He's driving down the straight and there's sparks everywhere. So now on the time screen, as you can see, Leclerc still leads, followed by Verstappen, followed by Sainz, followed by Hamilton. Kevin Magnussen and the Haas up in fifth. What is going on? Very good start. Very good start. George Russell in seventh. He'll want to have a run at Perez, no doubt. We have to keep an eye on the gap there on the split times. As you can see, Leclerc there first, Verstappen, Sainz. Now I'm going to keep an eye on here, Perez, to see what sort of gap is there going to gap between the two builds. George Russell needs to try and hang on to Perez realistically. I don't think Russell can afford Perez to gain too far in front of him. And as you can see at the moment, he's falling a little bit behind. First sector. Now the first sector, Perez was quicker by half a second, much more closer in sector 2 there. Now this is interesting. So, okay, Leclerc, fastest lap of the race so far, 137.85. Verstappen just behind, 137.88. This is an interesting setup we got now. And Hamilton, 139. So, Hamilton not able to keep up so far with Leclerc. Not able to keep up so far. So, it shows that Hamilton still, the Mercedes just can't quite match that Ferrari. The question will be whether or not, I mean, how Verstappen looked like he was dominating all weekend, and then we get into qualifying, and then as soon as he gets qualifying, it's outdone by Leclerc. Be interesting to see how that stays like that, to be honest. Yeah, it's interesting here with Hamilton. So Kevin Magnussen, well, I mean, he's done well there. But look at the McLarens, 18th and 20th. 18th and 20th. They are on the harder tyres, though. That may play into their advantage later on. Let's see how their tyres last. But McLaren's there at 18th and 20th, but they are on different tyres, different strategy. We're expecting them to go longer into the race than McLaren's here. Leclerc and Verstappen still out first and second, Sainz in third. Looking at the timings there, 137.8. They've gone set. Okay, this be 31.6, 31.4. It seems that looking at both Perez and Verstappen, they seem to be quicker in the first sector, but they seem to be slower in the second sector and the third sector. Certainly in terms of Leclerc, in terms of the Ferrari of Leclerc. So it's an interesting start. Long way to go in this race. Long way to go in this race. And what's interesting here, though, as well, is you can see on the timings, all these yellows are basically, they were slower than they were the previous laps. And the greens are, they were quicker. So we've had, okay, so we had a load of yellows here. A lot of cars in the front end of the grid set slower lap times than the previous laps, while the ones that towards the back of the grid set quicker ones. Now we're seeing faster laps here. Now, having a look at the lap times, 41s, 38s, 41s. McLaren's are well off the pace. Well off the pace. Wow. They are on harder tyres, though. We'll need to, well, I say hard, they're on the medium tyres, but they're also the harder compound. It'll be interesting to see how that progresses later on. Well, again, we don't know. We don't know what the race strategy is going to be. We don't know if this is a one-stop or two-stop race. McLaren have decided to go with the mediums, but they're the only two cars. Now, have they made a blinder, the McLarens? Have they called a blinder, or have they got this badly, badly wrong? At this moment in time, it would suggest they've got badly wrong, but let's see, because they may be able to go, they may be planning a one-stop strategy. Perhaps they've worked out that a one-stop strategy, you need to start off in the mediums and perhaps go to the hards. And again, looking at the timings here, Leclerc. So Verstappen is not happy. Engine braking is doing funny things. Radio message from Verstappen. Radio message saying engine is doing funny things in the corners. That's interesting. He's not keeping up, though, with Hamilton's just behind Sainz. Can Hamilton get a good run up? So far, this overtaking lark, we're not really seeing it too much so far. I know we're only 4 laps in to a 57-lap race, but we just seem to have a long snake at the moment, like we did last season, really. And George Russell's just trying to get past Kevin Magnussen. It looks a bit far back. He's coming down the inside. Can he get George Russell? He's a bit too far. He's tried to have. He's had a look up the inside of George Russell is past Kevin Magnussen. You can see on the timer screen, actually. Again, we're a little bit in front of the timer screen to what I'm seeing on Sky Sports F1. But an interesting... Yeah, okay. So George Russell's up to 5th. So there we are. We've got Ferrari followed by Red Bull, followed by Ferrari, followed by Mercedes, followed by Red Bull, followed by Mercedes. So your Mercedes, your Ferraris, and your Red Bulls. There we go. There's your front lot, your top 6. McLarens, they don't want to be there. Look at them all the way down the back there. Although last lap, half a second quicker than Lance Stroll. The gap is 1.4 between Norris and Stroll at the moment. Hopefully, as far as Norris is concerned, we'll start to close up. But they are a long way. I wasn't expecting them to be so far back. Was not expecting them to be so far back. Now, let's have a look at the gap. Right, so, okay, so Red Bull have been messaging, or through the radio, have been asking Verstappen to lift and coast where possible through the corners. They're concerned about brake temperatures. We're only 5, 6, 7 laps in. 1.8 the gap between Leclerc and Verstappen at the moment. 1.8. That's worrying for Red Bull. Few laps in and they're already worrying about brake temperatures. So Bottas is trying to get past Schumacher. Oh, Bottas is past Schumacher. Okay, Ocon has been given a penalty for causing a collision. 5-second penalty. Yeah, I didn't even see. Yeah, it's okay. So let's back it up. Okay, so like I said, I've got the Sky on one screen, timings on the other. What can we see? Right, so again, where we were, gap between Lando Norris and Lance Stroll's coming down a little bit, but again, we're getting this snake. We're getting this snake like we have in previous seasons, like last season, where you have a snake of cars and no one really overtaking the other. And we're seeing that today as well, unfortunately. So far, these new rules aren't really showing us any more in terms of closer overtaking. Hamilton appears to be quicker than Sainz here. So Hamilton's going to want to try and get past Sainz, but he just can't get close enough. You can see there he's got DRS open. Just watched him down the back straight, the pit straight. It just doesn't seem like anyone's really doing any overtaking at the moment. Oh, we have got an Alfa Romeo passing. Is that... Who's that passing? Was Bottas passing? Yeah. So, okay, so both McLarens are now past Latifi, interestingly. Oh, no, they're not. Right, so we're seeing... Okay, so this is... Where are we with this? Norris, so the McLaren is saying... I'm trying to listen in my ear, but McLaren are saying that they believe the medium compound tyres which they're on, that they'll start to feel the benefit of that as we move into the race. So the soft tyres should start graining and wearing down where the medium should hold on. So they're expecting them to start feeling the benefit of that going forward. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Right, I need a. I think I need a drink. I'll leave you with this briefly. Right, there we go. It's better. I have to get our drink. So, and okay, so Leclerc still leads by Verstappen, so I didn't miss much there. The Miss Verstappen's not able to keep up though, Leclerc, down to nearly 2.5 second gap now. Nearly 2.5 second gap. Right, we're going to see. I think the next. Well, we haven't. When's pit window going to open? Should be pretty close now. We're 9 laps in. Ricciardo's struggling to get past Latifi still. These soft tyres should start to wear off now. Norris is just behind Hulkenberg, but 6/10 minds. It was the best part of second half back not that long ago. So he is closing Norris on Hulkenberg. But I mean, this is the McLarens. I mean, can you believe that 18th 20th? No one saw that coming. I'll tell you that much. After that first test in Barcelona, who honestly saw the McLarens occupying 18th and 20th? Now they are on different strategies, granted, but I can't imagine that they were expecting to be that there, especially Laura started in 13th. I mean, he's dropped back 6, 7 places. Obviously, didn't have a particularly good start. So let's see what the next few laps will bring. Again, we should be okay. Just looking at a couple of replays here. Hulkenberg locking up there. That's how Hulkenberg ended up becoming behind Stroll. And Lando Norris is just behind. So 3/10 Lando Norris now to Hulkenberg, who's a couple of seconds behind. 3 seconds now, by the way. So Perez has passed Hamilton. Now we're going to start seeing whose tyres last, who can make. So yeah, so we should be in the pit window now. So we'll start seeing what cars are able to make those tyres last longer, and it can be quite crucial over the course of a season because, as we know, if those are cars that grain their tyres a lot quicker. Have a look what's going on here. Yeah, so Perez is in front of Hamilton. We haven't heard any radio messages from Hamilton yet, but I just wonder if his tyres. I think that will be the next radio message saying his tyres are gone. That would be my guess. Yeah. So that's what we're seeing now. So it's Hamilton followed by Russell. Russell is 3.5 seconds behind Hamilton. Right. So, okay. So we're the 11 laps in. Radio message from Alonso saying that his tyres are quote bad. So we're expecting cars to start looking to come in now. We're 11 laps in, so it looks like a very tall order to go from lap 11, 12 to the end of the race. Even if you got to lap 15, 20 to the end of the race, it's a long stint. So I do wonder whether the two stops is going to be the way forward here, unless you're McLaren and you started on the mediums. And I just wonder how that's going to. So just listening to. Yeah, see, Norris is struggling to get past Hulkenberg. So far, I'm not seeing the sort of racing. Hamilton pits, Hamilton pits, Hamilton's tyres. I did say I wonder if his tyres had gone. They looked like they were pretty sore. Hamilton has pitted. Have they found a gap for him? Have they found a gap? Where does he come out? Down in eighth, down in. And now Alonso pits. Now Alonso pits. Verstappen is saying he has got zero traction. So we're seeing, well, this is now Hamilton has came out. He's come out. Where is he? Now Alonso's all the way back down in 18th after that pit. It was down at the back. Alonso's come out at the back, but where's Hamilton's come out in 12th? So it's almost certainly going to be a two-stop. Well, and it's not almost. It is going to be a two-stop for a lot of these cars. 3.4 seconds for the stop time, which is quite good because these tyres are bigger tyres, as we know. So Hamilton is in 12th. I think he came out in 11th originally, but he came out just in front. Obviously, yeah. Oh, he's gone very deep, Hamilton. That's okay. So that's how Hamilton he come out in front of the Alfa Romeo, but ended up behind him after coming out very deep from the pit straight. So okay, so this is an interesting concept now we're seeing because the blanket temperatures are lower than what they've previously been, which means the tires are not quite up to a temperature or to the warm temperatures you want to be at. So Hamilton's weaving around trying to warm up those tires. Now, how is that going to affect other cars as they come through as well? Yeah, I can see. So he's on the hard tires, by the way, is Hamilton. Alonso's gone on to the mediums, interestingly. Onto the medium tires. Schumacher's now in the pits. Now, this is where the McLarens will argue, and Ricardo has finally made it past Latifi. This is where the McLarens will argue that this is where they should start seeing those benefits. Those tyres should be lasting longer. So everyone else should be in front of them, should be pitting and coming out behind them. The question is how long can they go into the race days with those mediums, McLarens? Now, it's interesting that they've gone onto the hard tyres, McLaren, Mercedes. Hamilton's complaining that they're too cold. No, Hamilton's back up past the Alfa Romeo. Bottas is in front of him, obviously Hamilton. A couple of seconds behind though. But the hard tyre, so are they gone to the hard to try and get through to the end of the race? I can't see they're going to the end of the race on the hards. I mean, it's brave if he does, but surely the better option might have been for the medium and then another set of mediums at the end. A fresh set of mediums at the end, possibly. But see how the leaders stay out. So far, no Leclerc, no Verstappen. Now, Verstappen, bear in mind, saying he's got zero traction. He's 3.5 seconds off Leclerc. So that'll be interesting to see how that I suspect the reason why Verstappen hasn't pitted yet might be because of the fact that they don't have a gap to bring him out to. But also, if the tyres are coming out and they are colder, because the blanket temperatures have to be colder this year, does that mean that the undertake, or say the undercut, does that mean that is not as effective as it has been in previous races? Does that mean it's not as effective? So that's another reason why Verstappen may not pitch yet. But he is complaining about his grip, and he hasn't pitted, and he's not gaining on Leclerc. So you'd have thought if they could pit, they will pit. The fact they haven't, I don't think it's a case of their eyes not on the ball. I think they just either don't have the gap or don't believe the undercut's much good, or both. And looking at Hamilton's lap times when he came out of the pits, I don't think the undercut's going to be, although he did come onto hard tyres rather than mediums. So Verstappen is in the pit, and so is Carlos Sainz. Verstappen and Sainz into the pits. Where are they coming out? Or Magnussen pits as well. Magnussen having a fantastic race, by the way. Fantastic race. Gasly, okay, so we've seen quite a few pits now. Quite a few pit here. Verstappen's out. Now, you probably argue that Verstappen is fortunate, well, Verstappen and Sainz, because they pitted, all the cars directly behind them also pitted, so they're not going to come out into that traffic that might have otherwise been. Now, the question the McLarens will see is, where do they finish after all these cars have pitted? Now, I'm just seeing Verstappen's pit time here. Verstappen was 2.9 seconds. Good stop there by the Red Bull crew there. Very interesting setup now we've got here. So Leclerc stayed out. Is there any value in the undercut? Now, presumably Leclerc's going to pit this lap. Surely he has to pit this lap. Is he going to pit Leclerc? So far, no signs of pitting yet. Verstappen is behind Russell. He is 5.5 seconds behind George Russell. Now, Leclerc does indeed pit. Leclerc does indeed now pit. He had to, really. He had to. Surely you can't take the risk of Verstappen on a fresh set of tyres. Perez also now pits. Perez has gone to a plan B, according to Red Bull's race engineer. Russell now pits. Fastest second sector and fastest third sector by Verstappen. So he's pushing out Verstappen. He's pushing now. We'll see. Is there much value to the undercut? Now, Verstappen's gone back out on another set of soft tyres. So he will be pitting again. And Sainz is also on soft tyres. It will be pitting again. And Leclerc. Wow. So they're all okay. So no, Perez is onto a medium. So that must be plan B. Plan B must be the medium tyres. But Verstappen is on a set of soft. Now, he started on a set of soft. Now, you have to use 2 compounds, which means Verstappen will have to stop again. Leclerc's back out in the lead. Leclerc will have to stop again. You have to use 2 compounds. So that's an interesting thing there. They will have to stop again. So Perez is on a medium. Are they expecting him to go on a medium and then a set of softs at the end? Possibly. Surely they can't expect mediums to go through to the end of the race. I can't see it. George Russell's also on the hard. So Mercedes have not split their strategy. They put both cars onto a hard tyre, which surprised me. I thought they might have stuck Russell on a set of mediums, if I'm being honest. McLaren's Lando Norris now up to 12, obviously, because the McLarens haven't had to stop because they started on a harder compound on the mediums. Very finely set up now. Now, let's have a look at the gap between Verstappen. Verstappen, the undercut, he's with half a second. Verstappen off Leclerc within half a second. Within half a second, interestingly. Let's see what happens here. Now, Oh God, Leclerc and Verstappen are having a ting tong at the moment. Wow, what's going on here? So Verstappen and Leclerc are having the right ting tong, but Verstappen has dropped back 4 tenths. He did just briefly take the lead, so I'm guessing there was a mistake there. I'll see it. There's the delay to the Sky Sports coverage, so I'm now about to see what happens. So Verstappen, he went round thing. So Verstappen did take the lead briefly, and then what happened after that? Right, so Verstappen took the lead at the end of turn one. Then the next sector, with the next DRS section, Leclerc fought back and took the lead back again. Oh dear, what? Is this what we're? Wow, this will be interesting. This battle here, but he's dropped back Verstappen a little bit there. He's just dropped back a little bit there. The undercut though worked very well for Verstappen in this particular case. Worked very well. Long way back, yeah. He must have He must have had. He must have charged his battery really well there. He must have had full battery on that long straight. It was a long way back going down that straight. A long way back. Goodness me. And we're still Leclerc and Verstappen. It's that long straight. It's that first bit, the pitch straights. Verstappen is getting a real big, from quite a long way back, a real boost down the thing. And then it gets turn one. Then he gets to the second DRS zone and it swings back the other way. Now, how long can they keep doing that for? Because Verstappen was getting overheating brakes earlier. And they come out again. So I'm just watching it's delayed. You can see on the time screen, but then I'm watching the race, and the race is about about 20 seconds behind. So there we go. Yeah, same again. Absolutely same again. First DRS zone. What's going on? So Verstappen is getting a massive, massive boost down that back straight because he's a long way back when they go into the straight. Yeah, this is what. So signs. Oh, sorry, signs. So Leclerc needs to break that second barrier to stop Perez. Stop Verstappen getting that DRS because that DRS toe right down to that pit straight. Here he goes again, from 9 seconds 5 to 0.3 and then he's wow. Now I wonder if Verstappen's going to play a little clever thing in, go and say, you know what, you can take the lead in the first bend. I'll take the lead after the second sector, the second DRS zone, knowing that there's no other opportunities then until the end of the next lap. Wow. So it's certainly producing some good racing out of fun. Let's put it that way. Maybe this is where the rules is going to start. These new cars, these new rules maps. This is where it's going to start. Where we're going to start feeling the benefit of this, perhaps. Yep. Oh, it's a big lockup. Big lockup by Verstappen. Big lockup by Verstappen. That'll be interesting to see how that's a really big lockup as well. A lot of smoke out the tyre there. He'll have some. It'll feel their vibration to that. Of course, this season with the larger tyres, we're expecting the if you do get a flat spot, okay, so Verstappen is now more than a second behind Leclerc, which is exactly where Leclerc wants him because it means he doesn't get that DRS down that big straight. And it was that DRS down that pit straight where he was just coming back from 8-9 tenths back and somehow taking him. But without that DRS, the gap now 1.2 seconds. So has Leclerc survived the Verstappen attack? Of course, with the tyres, with the lockup by Leclerc can have its effect on that. By Verstappen can have its effect on that too. Wow, interesting start of fun. Of course, all the meanwhile, Hamilton's still in 5th, George Russell 6th, Magnussen 7th. Magnussen doing really well in 7th there. McLaren's Lando Norris, Ricciardo's at the back, having pitted onto the softs, and a long way back as well at that. Really having a poor McLaren have had a poor race. A really poor race. This has not gone well at all for them. I think McLaren need to write this one off and rethink before they get to the next race, personally. Right, time for a quick toilet break, as you do. I'll be back. Right, what have I missed? Oh, Pleo, God, didn't see that. It's all going on here. It's going on here more than on the race, eh? Right, so looking at the timing screens after that break, Leclerc still leads by Verstappen, but the gap is now 3.5 seconds. So I just wonder when the next opportunity might be for that. They both got to stop again because they both started on the soft tyres. They both changed onto soft tyres. You have to use two compounds. So they will both need to stop again. Now both need to go into a different compound. Presumably it'll be the mediums. Let's have a look what else is going on here. Hamilton up behind Perez, but quite a long way behind Perez, 12 seconds. So the Mercedes really are not competitive with the Ferraris and the Red Bulls at the moment. Really not. George Russell's further 5 seconds back. I think fifth and sixth, as far as Mercedes is concerned, that might be as best that they can expect. I think in reality, the season by looks things. Right. Oh dear, let's have a look what's going on here. Right. Right. Now, so I've just got the I can see so Perez don't forget a point for the fastest lap, which company is going to Perez, by the way, fastest lap. Although I expect that to change. If the Mercedes continue to pull away from Magnussen, which I'm expecting them to do so, we may see one of the Mercedes pit to go for that fastest lap with a lap or two to go. Norris is just pit in. And that's his first pit stop, and he's come out the back on a set of hard tyres. So the McLarens are definitely going on a one stop. McLarens are definitely going on a one stop. So, well, no, saying that, Ricardo's on soft. So he went from medium to soft. Norris has gone from medium to hard. So definitely Norris is going on a one stop. But what you'd expect is all these in front of him will probably need to pit again. All of these in front of him will need to pit again. So therefore, I'm wondering if how far up the grid he would come. He certainly needs to gain some time back on those cars in front of him. So that'd be interesting to keep an eye on going forward. Now let's see what else is happening here. Again, it's still Magnussen, and if he can nick a point, Magnussen, he's obviously got some cars behind him. But if he can nick a point, that'd be a brilliant race, brilliant result for Haas if they do. Mick Schumacher down to 13th on the medium. So yeah, Alonso's just pitted again for the second time onto hards. They obviously didn't like. So it's interesting that Alonso stopped ready for the hards. So some of them are pitting early and going onto the hards and going and perhaps feeling the hards as a one. Are these mediums now? are these mediums being? Are we finding out these mediums are going actually a lot quicker than that perhaps we thought? Don't go any 27 laps in. We are halfway mark, and some of these cars are already gone through a set of softs and a set of mediums. So, yeah. So this is interesting. So these tires are graining a lot quicker than we thought. Now, teams that have gone on to a soft or medium are now looking at putting on a hard. We don't know how far into the race the hards will go either. Hamilton and Perez will give us that indication because they have gone from the softs to the hards, where some teams have gone, like Alonso, has gone from the soft to the medium to the hard. Bottas up in 11th. Yeah, it's bad race. Bundle highlighting about the the race for McLaren's being a bad one. Well, how much they pay you per year to state the obvious? Okay, let's have a look what's going on. So again, 3.7 seconds. Sort of stable the gap now, isn't it? Stable, I guess. For Leclerc's not going to be pushing that car too hard now, I don't think. So I don't know what these Alpines. They're pink, but they're pink like that Racing Point was a year or two ago. I don't. I'm a big fan of that Alpine. I liked the blue they had last year more than I do this color. Verstappen radio. So Verstappen is complaining that the tyres are, quote, dead again. They're dead again, quote. So the Red Bull were struggling on their tyres, but it seemed to me if had Verstappen not have pitted earlier, Leclerc seemed to be quite happy to continue on his pace. They certainly seem to be the Ferrari seem to be using their tyres better. Than the Ferrari seem to be using them better than the Red Bulls. The tyre usage, tyre deg. So let's see if it's when Verstappen next pit. He's got a little. So I mean, you're not even half distance, and Verstappen needs saying he needs another set of tyres. So Lewis Hamilton's now pitted onto the mediums. I'm confused as to what's going on here. So the Hamilton have gone from they've had hards on for about 10 laps, 15 laps. In fact, let's have a look. Hamilton. That's not giving us lap thing. Yeah, normally you get the lap counts, but that is. Let's have a look. Hamilton. So how long was their last pit? So yeah, it's just. These tyres are not lasting, are they? They're not lasting. Or are they just too slow, perhaps? Perhaps that's what it is. I'm just hearing, I mean, they're hard. The hard tyres are apparently very hard. I'm hearing on the commentary. But are they, why did they, wow, I don't know why they pitted Hamilton then. They put him on the mediums, but it's a long way to go for the mediums. Long way to go. Everyone else who's been on mediums are already starting to feel the strain on it. So I'm confused as to why they've done that. I'm not entirely sure what the strategy is there. But Hamilton is down in 8th now, having made a second stop as a result. Russell has stayed down. I wonder if they're going to split the strategies here and keep Russell on the hard tyres. We should see Hamilton go a bit quicker though, but that's a long way to make those mediums last. Can he make them? I mean, they may have to stop a third time. That would be. Have they made a real balls up Mercedes here? I think that's the question I'm asking myself. Have they made a balls up here? Norris is down in last place on the hards. I'm certain, given they started on the mediums, I am certain that they are looking at Norris as going to the end of the race on those hards. Surely he must be able to go to the end of the race on those hards from the stage. Alonso now on the hards as well, having made a second pit stop. So it's a long, yeah. There's a bit of contact there between the Racing Point and the Williams there, Lance Stroll and Albon. A little bit of contact with the front wing and the tyre, but no punctures. Is the Mercedes engine not quite as competitive this year either? And the reason I say that is because is the Mercedes engine not good in this particular type of model car? Because you look at the timings and all the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way from Albon, Ricardo, Latifi, a lot of Mercedes engine cars towards the back of the grid. Have Mercedes got an engine that's not quite as competitive this year as they have had? That's an interesting. So is it not so much the aeros of these cars, but more of the engine power? I dare ask. Now, Sainz, Verstappen has pitted. Just noticed that there. Verstappen has pitted. Come out behind Perez. So his tyres didn't last. Now he's gone on to mediums. Now, again, presumably, Verstappen's going to be told that they have to last the rest of the race. What's that stop? 3 seconds flat on the medium compound. Now, are Ferrari going to react? Yeah, now is what's Verstappen going to do here? Is he going to push on this opening lap to see if he can do an undercut here? But he's got a long way to go on his tyres, so perhaps the best course of action is to play it the long game. If he goes too quickly on these tyres, he will probably need to box again. Yeah, so here comes him in Leclerc. We thought they may have to react, and they are. It certainly seems that the Red Bull are graining their tyres a lot quicker than the Ferraris at the moment. Ferrari have only pitted to react to Red Bulls, and Red Bulls are pitted not for tactical reasons, but simply because their tyres have not lasted. He is pushing for Verstappen. He's got a faster second sector. He is pushing. So where does Leclerc come out? Does he come back out in front of Verstappen? 2.5 seconds. That is quick. That's the quickest we've seen so far in the pit time, by the way, by Leclerc. And Leclerc does come out in front of Verstappen. So he has come out in front of Verstappen. But Verstappen, as we know, get round to the next, back round to the pit straight again. I suspect they'll keep Sainz out a bit longer here. I think Sainz is going to stay out now and try to slow down if Verstappen does get in front of Leclerc. This is an interesting setup now. But the thing is, we know that that Ferraris can go longer than the Red Bull. So Verstappen's not having a thing. He's radioing, saying, "Oh, I didn't push on that out lap, and I could have done, and I would have taken things." So he's obviously been told that those tyres have got to last him and not to push. Verstappen get fastest lap of the race, 1:36.5. Yes, a good point there by Frosty. That half a second, that 2.5 second stop by Leclerc, compared to 3 seconds by Verstappen. Well, that half second is the difference. Verstappen would have came out in front. That is why. That is where it comes down to the fine margins of the pit stop. That extra 2 tenths here, 3 tenths there. That is exactly why. That is exactly why. Now, Verstappen, I would argue, if he doesn't overtake Leclerc any time in the next few laps, it's going to struggle to later on, because we know that his tyres will go quicker than Leclerc's. We know this. But it sets up for an interesting finish for those who are racing a different strategy. The likes of Sainz and Perez could potentially come back into play if they can both make their tyres last a little bit longer. If they can make those tyres last a little bit longer. They're both in the pit, so there we go. That saves that one. Okay, Sainz and Perez both pit then. Now, I was just going to say, if they can make their tyres last longer, they could have a nice fresh set of tyres later in the race to come at the Verstappen and Leclerc. But now that's not going to happen. They've decided not to do that. Carlos Sainz is out. Perez is out. George Russell now pits from P5. So George Russell, I'm expecting to come back out behind Lewis Hamilton, who is currently in P6. So George Russell, that's their second. Wow, it's just these tyres. I mean, look at it. Look at it. Look at the. Look, we got softs, medium, hards. They're all over the place. No one knows what the best strategy here is. No one knows what the best strategy here is. You got cars all over the place, timings all over the place, tyres all over the place. Wow, what is going on? We don't know. This is the thing. Brand new set of rules, new cars, and the first race of the season, and we just do not know what's the best strategy. We don't know how the tyres are doing. And there you have it. Look at the timings there. Look at the tyre choices. Mediums, hards, softs, all over the place. All over the place. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. George Russell, 3.2 seconds in the pit. Back up behind Magnussen, which won't please him at all. Although Magnussen does need to stop again. George Russell was no doubt going to be given the instructions of make them tyres last now to the end of the race. .8 seconds Verstappen off Leclerc, which is 1.9. So Verstappen, when he's got DRS down that straight, he's quick, but for some reason, around the rest of the lap, he's just not keeping up with him. So at this stage now, I can't see Leclerc or Verstappen stopping again. So I think Leclerc has to be strong favourites now to win this. Has to be strong favourite now to win this. Long way in front of Perez, of Sainz, who's 15 seconds. But Verstappen won't be able to pit again while Sainz is still there, because it'll come out behind Sainz and Perez for that matter. Hamilton's 9 seconds off Perez, which is a little bit quite closer than what he was. He was at one point nearly 15 seconds behind. So this is, yeah. But they are a long way off, aren't they? Mercedes off the lead there. And here comes Lando Norris. Is that Norris or is that Ricardo? Is Ricardo on Hulkenberg? Or is that Norris on Hulkenberg? There might be Norris on Hulkenberg. Yeah, so it is. So Norris is now past Hulkenberg. I can't believe where McLarens are at the moment. Honestly, I can't. They're on hard tyres as well, having made just the one stop. But they have made just the one stop. If everyone else pits in front of them, and quite a few of them will pit again. If the McLarens could get this to go to the end, Magnussen pits. So that frees George Russell up again. 3.8 seconds for Kevin Magnussen there, who's having an excellent race, I must admit. Yeah, very, very interesting here. Track limits at turn 4. Who's that for? Oh, I missed who that message was for. Perez sets a new fastest lap of the race, 1:36.3. On the softs, Perez. Is he really back on the softs? So he would have to pit again, Perez. If it's Perez, that's not a graphic error, is it? If Perez is back on the softs, he will have to pit again. That can't be right. He went from softs to softs. No, he went to mediums. No, he went to softs. Well, those softs have got to last a long time. So Perez has got to go another, what, 21, 22 laps on the soft tyres. If I'm Hamilton, I can smell blood on Perez because I can't see Perez going to the end of the race. So I think Hamilton needs to stay within the pit of Perez. Just not keeping up with that. It was 9 seconds. It's now 11.2 seconds, the gap between Perez. The Mercedes are just nowhere. They are in no man's land. They're clearly quicker than the rest of the field behind them, but they are clearly a long way off the two in front, the two teams in front, the Red Bulls and the Ferraris. Wow. They've got some work to do, Mercedes. They've got some catching up to do. But look at the Mercedes-powered engines. All the cars further back down the grid are Mercedes-powered engines. Take note of that. I think this isn't an aero issue with Mercedes and McLaren. I think there is a genuine engine power issue with the Mercedes. Now, there's been some changes in terms of the fuel regulations, the regulations to the fuel on how much of it is used or the way in which it burns, how quickly fuel burns, etc. And I'm just wondering if they're just at the McLarens, at the looking at the McLarens, the Williams, of course, and the Mercedes themselves. I mean, they are. Yeah, I think there's an engine issue with Mercedes. I think their engine power is not as good as what it was. If I was to have a guess, make of that what you will. So who pits now? Bottas pits. This is he's second. So this would be for pit number 3 for Bottas. They must be going on to surely mediums now to the end of the race. Yeah, set of mediums for Bottas. This is his second stop. Bottas. This is his second stop. The gap now 2.8 seconds, by the way, from Leclerc to Hamilton to Verstappen. So, but Leclerc is clearly the Ferrari car is clearly outperforming Verstappen's Red Bull. Now, George Russell is just a couple of seconds behind Hamilton. I'll be interested to see if Russell was able to close in on Hamilton. What if team orders become a factor? We know we used them at Mercedes, didn't they? They certainly have in the past used for team orders. So I'll be interesting to see if that happens. 12 seconds now. Hamilton is off Perez. Again, Perez is on a on a very new set of soft tires. Whether or not, I mean, they've got to last Perez for a long time. Those softs. I'm surprised they put them on softs. I'm surprised they didn't put them on mediums. 2.2 seconds from Perez to Sainz. So at this moment in time, if you're set at Ferrari garage, you're feeling pretty pleased. Oh, that was close between. So for Sainz coming out of the the Williams of Albon coming out of the pits and down the end pit straight, and nearly ran into Sainz, who was obviously running in third place, and I think it's being lapped. Yeah, so 3 seconds now. Verstappen's just not hanging on. The thing is now, Verstappen cannot pit for another set of tyres because he will come out behind the Sainz. And at this stage, if you pit now, I don't think Ferrari would need to respond. They'll just keep their drivers out there. So, because they are obviously much better at their using the tyres at this moment in time. Bear me 2 seconds. Oh dear, ankle biters running around and all that. Right. So where we at? Leclerc, 3.1 seconds. Verstappen's clearly not able to compete with Leclerc. I think Max Verstappen's going to be relying on a safety car and any lap cars between the two being pulled in order to win this race. Now, I think, no pun intended. Hamilton is get his first. Hamilton's left for 13.8, but Russell is right behind. Just a second. What is going to happen here now? Just a second between the two Mercedes. This will be interesting. Has Hamilton got an issue? Right now, this is interesting. Let's have a look what happens with Hamilton and Russell. Just half a second between the two. That is, I mean, are they gonna? It seems that Russell seems to be quicker on these tires at this stage of the race than Hamilton. Are they gonna ask Hamilton to move out of the way? Or are they? No, it's that 14 and then 14 again. I'm confused there. Might be another. It might be okay. It might be 14 seconds between the two. So Hamilton's certainly dropping back from yeah. Hamilton's dropping back from Perez, but Russell's making small gains on Hamilton. Long gap though, isn't there, between the two? I mean, George Russell wouldn't want to be finishing 14 seconds behind Hamilton in the same car. 3.7 seconds, 3.6, 3.7 seconds. Verstappen falling further behind, clearly not able to compete. And we know that Red Bull has really drained its tyres. It's not good on its tyres. And that Red Bull is not good on its tyres. That's what's going on here. Right. Well, okay. I just need to be interested to see what people think after the race, by the way. It's still hard to make of how the season's going to pan out based on this race because Bahrain isn't the most reliable of tracks to gauge what car is where and so on. But I certainly think if I'm a Mercedes powered car, I'm certainly looking at Mercedes and saying, hang on a minute, we pay you a lot of money. Where's our good engine? Because I don't think that Mercedes engine is performing to the level that one would expect them to perform to, if I'm being honest. So there we go. Look, nearly 4 seconds to gap. Yeah. 14 seconds back behind Sainz. So Verstappen cannot pit. The gap's just not there. Verstappen cannot pit for any set of tyres at all. This, by the way, this is what Hamilton last season missed with Bottas because Hamilton, Verstappen would often be able to strategically, they'd be able to play Verstappen and be able to play Perez. And for example, Verstappen here could pit and go onto a new set of soft tyres and force Hamilton to have to pit and so on. Whereas this time around, they can't. Verstappen can't pit because he'll come up behind Sainz and Sainz just wouldn't pit. So Leclerc would stay out in front, Sainz would slow down Verstappen and so on. So Verstappen's just caught in a place where he's not quick enough to catch Leclerc, but they can't use any strategical involvement at all. They may try and bring Perez in, which would force Sainz to have to come in because of the undercut. But then, because of where we are in the race, I just can't see. But this is what Hamilton didn't have last year. He didn't have Bottas there in the mix to be able to use a strategical points. And this is the problem that Mercedes had last year. This is the problem. This isn't the problem though for the Ferrari. They've got a driver there who's able to keep up with the rest of the say keep up. I mean, it's not 30 seconds behind, still a gap, but he's there. As long as you're within a stop, if you're the second driver in a group like this, as long as you're within a pit stop of the car in front of you, you become a factor. And it's quite clear that Sainz here is now a factor in Red Bull. They're limited to their strategical way of thinking and the possibility of options available because the fact that Sainz is within the pit stop. Hamilton now 15 and a half seconds, is still falling back behind Perez. Yeah, so if they just listen to Ted Kravitz here. So they're just talking about Verstappen's. Obviously, after the second pit stop, he come out in the outlap and he complained to the team about the fact that they had obviously said to him, "Look, these tires need to last. Just don't push." And he didn't. And he says, and then he come out just literally half a second behind the leader Leclerc. And he said, "Well, I could have pushed, and if I'd pushed, I would have come out in front of Leclerc." And actually, what they're saying, actually, Verstappen did put in quite a quick lap time that lap, and he wouldn't have really been able to go much faster because he wouldn't, because even these fastest lap times weren't quick enough to get him in front of Leclerc. So either Verstappen pushed, and he actually did push, and he just won't accept that he pushed and it wasn't quick enough. That seems what I think. Or he was misguided. He thought he didn't do as quick a lap as he did when he actually did quite a quick lap in that out lap. But Red Bull is a propaganda machine, so you never know really what goes on with. But Verstappen pits. Verstappen is pitting, so his medium tires are obviously, as we thought, they're just not. That Red Bull are not good on their tires. They are not good on their tires. Perez pits as well. Now, what is going to now? Surely Sainz stays out here. Sainz stays out and is a blocker now to Leclerc. I think that the Ferraris will try and go to the end here, or are they going to react? This throws things out again, doesn't it? From the third stop, but of course, with Perez stopping, Hamilton is now in front of Perez. Wow, if Hamilton's going to go to the end of the race, Perez is going to have to get past Hamilton. But I mean, what have Red Bull seen here? So, what is going on here then? What is Red Bull's way of thinking? Now, what are. So, do they keep Carlos Sainz out in front? Do they keep both the Ferraris out and Carlos Sainz essentially becomes a blocker? Because Verstappen is currently 9 seconds behind Carlos Sainz. Both onto the soft tyres. But wow, that's. And of course, Perez will have to get past Hamilton. Now, Sainz pits. Sainz pits. Leclerc hasn't. Sainz has pitted. What are we thinking here then? What? And now Hamilton pits. What? So, wow. Why not Leclerc then? So the react. Oh, okay. So Red Bull have forced Ferrari into making Perez stop. They're saying, look, give up. What are you giving up? First place or third place with the undercut. So Ferrari feel that they must have a big enough gap with Leclerc at the front. So they brought in Carlos Sainz. Now, presumably, Leclerc comes on next. Hamilton pits. That's a slow pit stop from Hamilton. 4 seconds. Now, what's going on here? Now, this Leclerc going to pit. Well, yeah. So Sainz has come out back in front of Perez. So they haven't lost the place from Sainz to Perez. The question now is Verstappen with Leclerc. "27 seconds, 28 seconds." Wow. It's this. I mean, this is a bizarre race. A bizarre race for the opening race of the season. This is a bizarre race. Oh, we got a car fire. We got a car fire. Safety car. Safety car. Brilliant news for Ferraris here because they'll be able to pit Leclerc. Virtual safety car. And the Alpha is out. What one is that? That is what Alpha is that? That is that Gasly? No, full safety car. Full virtual safety car to a full safety car. Wow, this race is throwing up all sorts of things. When you think it's all done and dusted, it's not. Now, cheap stop for Russell. Here comes Russell. There's all pit now. Obviously, the ones some teams have just pitted, as we saw. Sainz had just pitted. Verstappen had just pitted. Perez has just pitted. Now this is going to bunch them all up again. Leclerc pits. Leclerc pits as expected. He should come out in the lead, obviously with a new set of medium tyres. No, soft tyres. There we go. It's just the graphics just changed. Set of soft tyres. It's Pierre Gasly, by the way, that is out of the race with a car fire. Battery. So it's a battery issue. Now, do they pit Verstappen? Because Verstappen, I think they were concerned that Verstappen's wheels may not be fully on because they're saying about some heaviness. And looking at the replays of the pits, of the pit stop, it looked. That'd be interesting to see if they. Yeah. Now we're off back up. We'll be back onto it when the race does start. Wow. Right, I'm going to quickly use this opportunity for a quick pit stop myself. I'll be right back. Right. Well, what more drama can we have? I mean, there's still 10 laps to go. Right, that'd be interesting then. Of course, this is the first safety car we've had since the dramatic conclusion to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Late pit by Alex Albon here. The car's still. Just listening to Krushandok talking about between Verstappen and his pit wall. So Verstappen feels that the car's not handling the way in which he wants it to, so to speak. A bit heavy at times. But Red Bull have confirmed to him that it's not a reliability issue. So, but they will talk about it after the race. So presumably they know what it is, but they're not going to indulge over the radio in which other teams and us public can obviously hear what's going on. Now, yeah, no one's even got the Gasly car still in place at this stage. So, yeah, they haven't got far to move the car, but I'm not sure how long that's going to take to move that. The problem is it's been on fire, and that there's still smoke coming off the battery. It looks like there's a battery there at so he's not just, it weren't just a fire and a thing. He actually lost power, so he didn't just pull over manually because he had a fire in the back, but literally the car had the steering wheel shut off, so there's no power. That would suggest a battery issue, but that battery is obviously very hot even after putting the fire out. Now there'll be obviously need to be looking into that with the battery, and of course what was a Honda engine. Now the Red Bulls have taken over the control of that engine. Be interesting to see if they've just a one-off thing or if they got to look a bit more into that. We'll never know that, unfortunately. So we're still, as we are, still waiting for the safety car. So some cars are starting to unlap themselves. Say some. Remember the new rules: all cars have to unlap themselves. All cars. There's none of this picking and choosing now. Radio message. More and more difficult to steer with speed, according to Verstappen's radio to Red Bull pit wall. Lapped cars may now overtake the safety car, and it's so what we're now saying from race control is it's saying which cars 18, 23, 3, 4, 6, and 27, which are all the lapped cars. So there's obviously more clarification on what message has been sent to what cars. All the lapped cars are now being given the opportunity to overtake the safety car. As should have been a case in Abu Dhabi last year. Might I just put in there? Not that we're going to go back to that topic again anytime soon. Team Radio. So Verstappen's radio race engineer saying to Verstappen, what we're seeing is the situation is stable. Nothing seems to be getting worse. Although So the thing is, what Verstappen's saying is the faster he goes, the worse the steering is. Of course, they've been behind a safety car for this time, so we don't know how well it's going to be for him when they get into a full race, which he should be in pretty soon now. Then 7 laps to go. Safety car in the end of this lap. So, of course, there's a delay on the Sky Sports to the timing screen. So let's keep an eye on the timing screen for when they go off. Now, obviously, for Verstappen and Leclerc, it's one battle to look out on the restart, but another one, Hamilton and Perez. Keep an eye on that. And, of course, Sainz on Verstappen, because if Verstappen's got issues, and I dare say scientists, race engineers have been on the radio to Sainz saying, look, Verstappen may have issues, give him a good run up. Have a good run at him. So, be interesting to see what happens here. Let's see what happens. Well, so I'm keeping an eye on the live timing screens. It's difficult to say when the safety car is in. So they are on their way, I believe. Well, it's okay. Keep an eye on the timing screens here to see if there's any changes to the order. There we go. Some attempts, 8-10 Sainz, Perez, and Hamilton. So Sainz is going to have a right go at Verstappen. Now, remember, DRS won't be enabled for a couple of laps. Fastest sector by Leclerc. Here we go. Verstappen did second fastest, his personal best first sector. Now, where's Sainz? Sainz is half second. Verstappen is already 1.2 seconds behind. Now, when DRS, Sainz will need to stay Sainz needs to stay within a second of Verstappen for that DRS. And we've seen that DRS down that pit straight be very, very powerful. But it's a couple of laps before the 1.6. So Verstappen's dropping quite quickly off Leclerc. But Sainz is 6 tenths, followed by Perez, who's just under a second, 9 tenths. Hamilton beyond. So when this DRS is enabled, let's see who's within a second of each other. Come DRS enable. Remember, it's a second. You have 2 laps before DRS is enabled. Verstappen will not get DRS as it stands with Leclerc, 1.5 seconds in front of him. But what will Sainz? Can Sainz stay within a second? Can Perez stay within a second of Sainz? Hamilton's just 4 tenths of Perez. Can he have a run at Perez with DRS? This race is not over yet. Lot of position still to fight for. Daniel Ricciardo is now in front of Lando Norris, by the way. And this is, they're all on set of soft tyres now. They're all on soft tyres. So Sainz is now second of Verstappen, which is, and Perez is, it's now sort of 8 times. Sainz needs to stay in with Verstappen, needs to keep that second gap. He applies pressure to Verstappen if he does. Nearly 2 seconds in front of Verstappen now. Carlos Sainz still is staying within that second. Perez has dropped more than a second back, but Hamilton, well, okay, now we're in DRS range now. We're in DRS territory now. Who's managed to stay within a second? Perez cannot use DRS because he's more than a second behind Sainz, but Sainz will have DRS, or will he? Or will he? Hamilton, as it stands, will have DRS over Perez. Let's see what happens here. Sainz hasn't been able to stay with Verstappen, unfortunately. No, he isn't. Sainz needs to get himself within that seconds going into that DRS range. 2 seconds now, the gap. So Verstappen's certainly not able to hang on to Leclerc. Leclerc's just been in racing his own. If we didn't have all these stoppages and whatnot, Leclerc would be quite far in front, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, Hamilton, what's Hamilton going to have? Of course, Russell's got DRS. No, Russell hasn't got DRS on Hamilton. Hamilton will have DRS on Perez, though. 0.8 tenths. Oh, it's going to be a... No, there isn't. Very little, really, has happened from that restart. Very little. Very little happened after the restart. Sainz still trying to 1.1 seconds, but Hamilton 0.8. That is just that Mercedes engine just is not able to compete down that straight. I know you've got the bobbing, but it's not relatively competitive, this Mercedes powered engine. Down a half second, that will be there down the pit straight there. Gains a few tenths, but I mean, Verstappen was gaining from further back than that against Leclerc early in the race. 2.4 seconds. What can Hamilton do? Sainz is pulled. Where has that come from? It's Sainz is now within DRS range of Verstappen. This is a right tight end to the race. Meanwhile, Leclerc's pulling away. 3.5 seconds already. Nearly 4 seconds already. Is Verstappen struggling? 0.2 seconds now the gap. Is Verstappen struggling? Is Verstappen struggling? Oh, Sainz has. This may be end up for Sainz has taken over Verstappen. Verstappen has dropped down to third. Has Verstappen got issues? We wondered. We questioned. Has Verstappen got issues? Sainz has taken second place. Now Perez is coming down. Perez goes past Verstappen. Now Hamilton's next. Verstappen's got issues. Verstappen's having issues. Verstappen is down in 6th. He's still going. He's got issues. Verstappen, can he finish the race? Wow, he's out. Verstappen is gone. Look, he's pulling down. He's pulling down. Wow, what a abysmal start to the race. What an abysmal start to the race for Verstappen for the season. Wow, wow, wow. Ferrari 1-2 going into the last couple of laps. He's got issues. Verstappen. Passed by Hamilton. They've got issues. Wow, wow, wow. It's just... Is he in the pits, Verstappen? He may be out. He may be out. He may be out of the race here. Verstappen's out of the race. Verstappen is out of the race. And there's cheers all over. Cheers all around the Bahrain Grand Prix as Verstappen pulls very slowly into the pits. And Hamilton's now after Perez. Can Hamilton challenge Perez for a podium of all the things to happen? Just to backwards. Wow. I mean, what an unbelievable first Grand Prix of the season. Wow. I don't know what to say. Hamilton is chasing Perez. He's 6 tenths behind. He'll have DRS. Now, presumably, Hamilton's down 4 tenths. This is going to fight to the podium to the end here. Fight to the podium for the end. Deary me. Not battery related were the words by Red Bull. So what has happened to that Red Bull car? And the question is, if it's happened to Verstappen, can it happen to Perez? Red Bull's losing power. Perez is losing power. Perez has reported he's got a power issue. Hamilton, can they get that? Can they nurse that car to the end of the race? Red Bull. Have they managed to reset things? I just wonder whether Perez, whether they've been able to just reset things a little bit. Hamilton's already going to save a massive charge for the pit straight. Yeah, the problem is that turn one, going down to turn one, the Mercedes is bobbing up and down and it's affecting its ability to brake late and overtake at the end of that turn one. Oh my goodness, what Hamilton takes the Perez is dropping. Perez is dropping. Perez may be out. Major issues for Red Bull. Perez may be out. My goodness be. Perez, look at him go. Look at him go. Wow, what is going on at Red Bull? Christian Horner will be absolutely fuming. They will have both. Well, Perez is out. Perez is out of the race. My goodness me, what a finish to this Grand Prix. Hamilton is going to take an unlikely podium, unless, of course, George Russell. But I can't see that happening with team orders. Last lap. Wow, 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 wow. God, dearie me. Oh, that's what happened. Perez spun. Perez spun. That's what happened. Perez spun at the end of the first sector. And there's cheers all round. Obviously, there's a delay on the Sky Sports, but there's cheers all around. It's like it's for, well, what an unbelievable. Well, my heart bleeds for Red Bull and Christian Horner. Hamilton done very well to avoid him. Well, Red Bull have got issues then. They've got reliability issues. They looked so strong all weekend. And then when it matters the most to reliability, an engine lockup, a failure of some sort for Verstappen, and then an engine lockup, according to Perez. The engine's shut down. Perez is out of the race. Both Red Bulls out of the race on the first race. They have been the quickest. They were the favourites all season. And Ferrari, out of nowhere, take pole position. And Charles Leclerc, who has had an absolutely blinder of the first race of the season, wins the 2022 Bahrain Grand Prix in the opening race of the season. Sainz comes second. Lewis Hamilton, the Mercedes, have had issues all weekend and they've got an unlikely third and fourth place. What is going on? What is going on? Wow, wow, wow. Wow. Oh, my goodness me. My goodness bloody me. Wow. I just... fireworks are going off. Ferrari pit crew are jumping up and down and celebrating as you would do. Mercedes, that will feel like a win for them. Wow. And Red Bull have got problems. Red Bull have got problems. They have got engine problems. We had don't forget the Red Bull and the AlphaTauris share the engines, and both Red Bulls out with engine issues, and Pierre Gasly's engine set on fire. So there are issues with that engine. There are issues. Red Bull have got issues. They've got a quick car, but it appears at this stage they may have an unreliable car. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Well, I was not expecting that. Oh dear. Wow, 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 wow. What an unbelievable race. Unbelievable start to the season. Both Red Bulls out with a few laps to go. Both Red Bulls out with reliability issues. Pierre Gasly out with a reliability issue, and it's the same issue. It's an engine issue. Pierre Gasly's engine setting alight before Verstappen losing power, and then Perez engine locking up and losing power. They have got issues, Red Bull. They have got problems to sort out. And one thing I can tell you now, that they were not a match for Ferrari and Leclerc. Not a match. But one thing as well, Hamilton's taken an unlikely podium. An unlikely podium. Wow, 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 wow. I will be back later this evening to discuss these. Join us then. You can have your say. I will be bringing on viewers into the virtual studio to have their say on the race. What happened today? Are Red Bull really in trouble after that disaster of a finish to the Grand Prix? Are Ferrari favourite for the title here? Can Mercedes bring themselves back? And what about McLaren as well? 14th and 15th, despite all the failures of the Red Bulls and Pierre Gasly. 14th and 15th. Not competitive at all. So, I'll see you later on, 9 o'clock UK time, 9 p.m. UK time, and we will discuss what is going on, what has happened today in the opening race of the F1 2022 season. Wow. Till then, take care.